So one of the things that happens when you exercise is your muscles produce CO2. And CO2 is released into your muscles and causes the blood vessels surrounding your muscles to dilate because it signals them to kind of increase oxygen to that area. Also, when you increase CO2 in your blood, the CO2 dissolves into the blood and creates carbonic acid, which is acidic. So as CO2 levels increase in your blood, your body becomes more acidic. That acidity triggers the lung to start breathing harder. And as you breathe harder, you release CO2. And that CO2 helps, and that over-breathing helps drop the acidity level and make your body more alkaline. And that's the balance between the two. There's this buffering system that happens in your blood. And it's one of the benefits of exercise. All this is coordinated by your nervous system. So while you're exercising, you're stimulating your nervous system. You can mimic that by doing breathing exercises, by holding your breath, and by hyperventilating. There are 3 ways that you can breath hold. One is with an empty set of lungs, one is with a full set of lungs, and one is after hyperventilating. With an empty breath hold, before I talk about empty breath hold, let's talk about how the lungs work. Gas exchange happens in your lung passively, which basically just means air molecules in the air go into your body because there's more oxygen outside than oxygen on the inside of your body. It just passively diffuses through your lung membranes. The CO2 is the same way. It goes from an area of high density to an area of low density. High density in your blood diffuses to low density in the air. So it's not an active process, it's just passive. It's basically what's in your lung gets diffused in your body, what's in your body gets diffused into your lungs. This happens only at the membranes of the lungs, right? So we have this full chest, we have this full sinus cavities, but the gas exchange only happens in the alveolar sacs, the small linings of the lungs. What that means is you have a lot of dead space. Dead space forces the body to retain CO2. So when you breathe and you exhale, you're not really exhaling all your CO2. Some of that is staying in your lungs. Some of that is staying in your sinuses. And then when you breathe in again, that ratio causes the diffusion to be less efficient. One of the benefits about doing qigong breathing or slow breathing or full exhales is if you can get a full exhale, when you breathe in, you're not retaining CO2, so you're getting better oxygen diffusion into the body. If you do full breaths quickly, what happens is you hyperventilate. If you take an oximeter and put it on your fingers, your blood oxygen level is already around 90%. If you overbreathe, you're not bringing in more oxygen. What you're doing is you're releasing CO2. So hyperventilation doesn't really oxygenate the body, it just decreases the amount of CO2 in your blood. This will all make sense when we start talking about the specific breath holds. So, if you want to breathe efficiently and effectively, do slow breaths with full breaths. And they found that with recovery. At a high altitude, after cycling, if you do slow abdominal breathing, you actually will recover quicker. So, first thing we want to do is we want to do an empty breath hold. The reason why we're emptying our lungs is it decreases that dead space. It makes it difficult for oxygen to diffuse from your body into your lungs. If you exhale all the air out of your lungs and hold your breath, you very quickly start to build up CO2 in the body. What you'll feel is an urgency. What you'll feel is pressure in your hands and your feet as the blood vessels dilate. And that's what we want. We want to dilate the blood vessels in our hands and our feet and throughout our body by increasing the CO2 levels in our body quickly. Most people can only do an empty breath hold for about 20 seconds. So, exhale all the breath, hold it, and real quickly you're going to start to feel urgency to breathe. That's the contraction phase, right? It's the dilating of the blood. It's the stimulating of the sympathetic nervous system. Then we need to do the recovery phase. So that CO2, what happens is it makes the blood acidic, and that acidity allows hemoglobin to release oxygen more effectively into tissues. So we do an empty breath hold, and then we recovery breathe. And as we recovery breathe, we breathe slowly and we breathe fully, emptying completely all the CO2 in our lungs, breathing in fresh air. Our hemoglobins will be primed to release oxygen because our acidity will be slightly high, and it feels really good. It feels relaxing to recovery breathe. The next thing that we will do is we'll do a full breath hold. So once we're recovered for about a minute, we'll take in a full breath of air and we'll hold it. What happens is when you hold it with the full breath is your CO2 from your body is able to vent into your lungs, and you're able to hold your breath longer. Also, with a full breath hold, it allows your spleen to contract. Your spleen has two functions. It stores red blood cells. It also stores white blood cells. And when you hold your breath, it will contract and release more red blood cells and more white blood cells into your circulatory system. This is beneficial. You'll notice this if you do a breath hold with a full breath of air, you can only hold it for a minute. But if you recover and you do a second breath hold, because of that spleen contraction, you'll be able to hold your breath longer. So we want to do a full breath hold to kind of isolate that spleen contraction. Sometimes you'll notice your stomach even starts to gurgle. You want to hold your breath until your CO2 levels get high enough. You will notice that because you'll start to feel involuntary contractions of your diaphragm. Not because you're running low in oxygen, but because your CO2 levels are high. Then we will exhale when you get 3 contractions. If you're really good, you can get 10 contractions. You'll exhale and you'll do recovery breath. Slow, full breaths. It's actually better to do what's called tidal breathing. Free divers do tidal breathing. It's more out than in. So basically, if you do a count of 12 outs, you'll do a count of 6 in. So we want to do slow recovery breaths, completely emptying the lungs. The last thing that we want to do is we want to do hyperventilating. Hyperventilating is just breathing fast. It's blowing out CO2. So we want to focus on exhaling quickly. So I'll show it to you. It's inhale to your abdomen, inhale to your lungs, exhale hard and fast. You'll real quickly start to get tingling in your hands, tingling in your face. It's best to do all these exercises lying down. When we hyperventilate, we blow out CO2 and our blood becomes more alkaline. Our blood vessels constrict, our lips get tingly as our body constricts. Then we want to hold our breath. Again, until CO2 levels rise back up, we get diaphragm contractions until 3 or until 10, and then recover. When your blood gets alkaline, what you will notice is it also stimulates the nervous system to decrease pain. And so what you'll often find is people will do hyperventilations before they take or get into a cold bath, because it helps with the shock of the cold water. So if you can do an empty breath hold, a full breath hold, hyperventilate, and then do a breath hold, we have stimulated all aspects of the blood buffering system. We have stimulated a spleen contraction, we've stimulated the parasympathetic nervous system, the sympathetic nervous system, and our body has been completely primed. It will be relaxed but also invigorated. So let me show you my breath hold sequence, and this is what I do before I take a shower. So the first thing is we want to empty breath hold. And so I want you to notice 2 things. I want you to see my abdomen as it starts to contract, and just watch what that's doing. So first I'm going to do a tidal breath, which just means I'm going to breathe fully, in through my nose, out through my nose, just relaxing. Do it one more time. All the way out. And then I'll stop breathing. And then full, slow breaths to recover. And what you'll feel is an urgency to breathe, but it's important to stay relaxed and calm because remember, you're not running out of oxygen, you're just building up CO2 in your body. And then when you begin to breathe again, it's important to notice how great that feels and how relaxed you feel while you breathe. So you'll recover for a minute. Then we'll do a full breath hold. The interesting thing about a full breath hold, and it's something interesting to notice, is when oftentimes you meditate, you will focus on your breath to calm you down. But when you're doing a breath hold, you can't do that. So you have to use your mind to stay calm. So you want an images of peace, an image of relaxation, kind of go to your happy place. And it will help decrease that panic and help you stay relaxed and hold your breath longer. Also, the dive reflex is overridden by being scared. Your sympathetic nervous system will override the dive reflex. So with all these breath holding exercises, we want to be as relaxed as possible. So what I want you to look for is I want you to see, as my diaphragm contracts, we're going to go 10 times. We'll do 3 times. I want you to do it 3 times. Okay, so we're going to tidal breathe, focusing on slow exhale and relaxing the body. We're going to breathe in and hold our breath. And while you're holding your breath, you scan your body and try to relieve all tension. Relax your face. Relax your shoulders and your fingers. And when you start to feel that contraction, just count to 3. And then a recovery breath. And just like when you are doing the warm-up exercises, with each contraction, with each contraction of the diaphragm, you want to help. It should help the body relax even further. All right, let me show you how to do the hyperventilation and the breath hold. We want to hyperventilate until we feel tingling in our feet and in our lips. I would say usually it's typically about 30 breaths. And then we will hold our breath and then again await for the contractions to begin, knowing that our CO2 levels have come in back to normal. So it looks like this. Breathe into your abdomen, into your lungs quickly. Exhale fully. Hold your breath. Feel the tingling, feel relaxation. So wait until you feel your abdominals contract, and then breathe normally. Do the recovery breaths, focusing on doing full breath hales, but nice and slow. And while you recovery breathe, you should be nice and relaxed, and what you can feel is you can start to feel your heartbeat in your hands and in your feet, and you start to feel your heartbeat in your chest. And what that means is just that you're relaxed, your blood vessels have dilated, and you're just feeling the circulation in your body. And it's a good sign that you relieved all the tension. It's a good sign that you've increased your blood circulation. It's a good sign that you warmed up your body, but it's also a good sign that you're not holding tension so that you can't feel that gentle pulse within the body. After I do the breath hold, then I'll go take my hot and cold showers. So if you do your shaking, to your padding, to your full body stretches, warm up your hips and your shoulders, do your breathing exercises, and do your shower, it should only take about 30 minutes to an hour, and we have simultaneously warmed up the body. You'll feel great, you'll feel invigorated, your muscles will be relaxed, your tendons and your proprioceptive system will be stimulated, but you'll also be very calm and you'll be very relaxed.